face. It'd be
Wow.
different if he's just flying, but he's landing on my face.
Yeah, thankfully I don't. I'm not having it. We're live, by the way. I'll go ahead and let you do your sharing there.
Yeah,
And no, I do not have fly problems at the moment, thankfully.
I do. It's damn fly. It's,
Yeah.
it's like that one fly. And it came in last night. I know he came in. And then I even said to the kids when we were going, we got to stop by the store because I want to get a whole new thing of salt to put in my bug assault rifle to shoot it.
I've never even
And then
heard
the
of that,
kids
by the
like
way.
say, "No, you have." Oh, dude, it's badass. So the kids go, "Oh no, you have salt." I said, "That's Himalayan salt. I'm not gonna waste." Dana buys this organic Himalayan salt. You think I'm gonna waste?
Some bougie flies.
Yeah, you think I'm gonna waste that on a fly? I don't
That's
think
funny.
so.
Well,
So
let me
I,
know
I
you're done sharing, and I'll
oh yeah. I was
run the
distracted.
intro. Yeah, I've never heard of an assault gun for flies.
Let me tell you something
Although I'm
bad.
intrigued, I'm curious now that I've heard about it.
You'll love it.
It sounds like something I can get down with. But I don't have a tremendous amount of flies in my house, though. Hey, Nancy, what's going on? Get ready to run the intro here in a second. As soon as Grandpa here gets done sharing stuff.
Yeah. Why isn't
Although I think technically I look older than you, though. I don't know.
it?
I have a lot more salt and pepper in my. I have more salt than pepper.
Yeah, this fly. You see? Do you see it? Right? Do you see it on my eyeball, going to my eyeballs in my
I
face?
do not know, but that would be awesome.
So I just feel it is what you're saying, but you don't see it. Like
No, we do not see it. I don't, anyways.
I need to go buy some salt after this. I really did.
That's
I'm gonna
awesome.
shoot this fly.
You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
All right, let's run the intro.
Shut up and sit down.
Boom. And for those of you listening prior to the intro, that's going to be the sound of him going after that fly here in a little bit. Anyways, what's up, everybody? Welcome to Dope and Dharma. This is the Dharma Time edition. And as always, I am the Dope Doctor, and I'm joined by none other than no, I'm the Dharma guy. He's a Dope Doctor. What am I doing? Got me all discombobulated here. I'm thinking fly. That's what it is.
Yeah, you're thinking about my fly. Thank you for thinking about my fly.
That's right. I'm concerned, man. I'm worried about you and your pet over there.
Thank you.
Anyways, as always, as I was saying, this is Dope and Dharma. This is our weekly Dharma Time edition, and we're a little bit early today for those of you who are listening or watching live. And you could do that on Facebook, YouTube, or Twitch if you look up Dope and Dharma. You can also comment if you have any thoughts on today's show topic, which I'm hoping you do. Speaking of that, we have a listener on Facebook who asked, "What's the joke of the day?" I'm assuming she's talking about my daily dad joke. And if you are, I guess I could spoil it here because I've already posted it this morning. But my daily dad joke is farts are basically the ghosts of all the food you ate. That's the joke for today. You know what's funny about the jokes before we get started? What? I never know which one's going to hit and which one isn't. It's weird because I'll have some that I'm like, all right, this is hands down, this is a winner, and I'll post it, and I'm actually excited. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be it,
and nothing,
and nobody really cares. I'll get the standard amount of likes and stuff, no comments really, just whatever.
Yeah.
And then I'll have another one that I feel is like a throwaway. That I feel like, all right, I'm not in the mood this morning. I've got other things to do. I got to stay consistent. Let me put this up, and it'll explode. And I'm like, I cannot understand what the people want. I don't get it. But anyways, I thought today's was pretty good.
There's no mathematical science.
No, it's just straight up dumb luck. And more importantly, I bet you it's not even that. It's just a matter of who sees it and who doesn't. But whatever. I digress. So today, man, you know what? I didn't know what the topic was going to be. I know people think that we plan these things out months in ahead, but we don't. I had some ideas. I wasn't sure. I call around, ask, get some feedback this morning. You and I talked earlier, and I started coming up with some ideas, and then it hit me what today's show is going to be about. And in that amount of time between then and now, I got to be honest with you, I'm actually kind of excited about today's show. I really am. it means more to me than I think people realized, and it definitely means more to me now than I thought it would have meant to me 10, 15 years ago. And so today we're
Mm.
talking about being the right person. And what prompted
Yeah.
that is over the weekend we had Father's Day. And so happy belated Father's Day to all you fathers out there.
Yep.
Um, and so I don't I guess we were thinking about doing a Father's Day show maybe, but right around the exact same time as Father's Day, I don't know if it was the same day or not, but it was within a day or so. You posted your 29th wedding anniversary to Dana. So first of all,
Mhm.
congratulations on that. That's awesome.
Thank you.
Yay.
Yeah, me.
But I'm ridiculously impressed with that, man. Like I really am. As somebody who is married now,
Me
or going
too.
on, and you should be, right? Like I
Yeah.
think that should be celebrated. Anytime I hear or I interact with somebody who's got like some
Mhm.
serious time in, I'm like, yo, good for you, man. Like I'm
Yeah.
impressed. I'm like proud of them for that. And only because her and I are going on, I don't know what, 7, 8 years now, married. We've been together for almost 9. Um, and it's hard, man. Like it's hard. Um, it's harder than I ever realized. And I don't think I think
Right.
there's a few things that people don't think about or talk about when it comes to marriage, and I'm positive we'll get to that throughout this
Mm.
conversation. But um, I know for me, I did not anticipate how difficult things were going to be because I've lived with girlfriends before in the past. Even her and I were living together for a little bit, prior to actually signing on the dotted line, I guess. Um, but I'm not even going to play, dude. I swear to you, it feels like things just completely changed the second we signed on that dotted line. Um, not necessarily for the better or for the worse, just it changed. I can't put
Yeah.
my finger on it. I think
Yeah.
maybe it was just expectations, I guess. Like I don't know what it was. I just know things were a lot different after that moment. And it was weird because we were already living together. We already knew each other. I mean, we were already committed. Like to me, it felt almost as if the signing on the dotted line was more of a formality at that point. That's what it felt like. Um, but boy, did things change. Like they're just different, and I can't really put my finger on it. It was just different, and it just got hard. And I remember her and I even
Mm.
talking to each other early on. When we were struggling, we were saying like it shouldn't be this hard. And then I watch shows and stuff for people who are getting married or whatever, and I see a lot of the younger ones who are newly married saying the same thing. Like it shouldn't be this hard. It's not. And I just, as somebody who's been married now for almost 8 years, and I've had friends who are married for 20, bullshit. You know what I mean? Like, get that out of your head. It's hard. I mean, it's worth it, right? I don't want to make it sound like it's this terrible thing because it's not. Um, but it is hard because think about it. You're taking two completely different people from completely different walks of life and different perspectives, different goals, different wants, different needs, different desires, and you're
Mhm.
putting them together and making one. That is hard, right? Like, that is hard. I see you. So Nancy
Right.
commented, "Don't tell me that I'm getting married in July." Well, congratulations first of all, and good luck. Um, and I think that
Yeah.
and let me start with this. I guess there was something that I never heard of, right? That's one of the reasons why I want to have the show is because you're an old timer when it comes to marriage, and I would consider myself intermediate at the moment. Like I don't feel like I'm new anymore. But there's some things that I don't think people know. So I think maybe you and I can kind of help facilitate some of that. And one of the things that occurred to me, it was I don't know how many years I was in, and I was talking to somebody, and they mentioned it, and it never occurred to me to have it. Pre-marriage counseling, right? Somebody mentioned that to me, and I was like, "But why? We're fine, right?" Like I didn't think that you would have to go to pre-marriage counseling when you're good. Like, why would we need to do that? Well,
Mhm.
comes to find out, we should have done that, right? Because pre-marriage counseling isn't for things that are going bad. It's trying to have a roadmap for all those little things that are inevitably going to come out that you don't think of,
Right.
like little stupid things that mean more to you than you actually think of. They're so insignificant right now that you don't even think of talking about them, but they are going to come up and they are a bigger problem than you realize. And I think that that's what it's for, right? Like it helps you already put together like a formula on how to like
Right.
address certain things and kind of like bring them up, right? Because everything can be worked out. It's all negotiable. But you got to come from that perspective, right? And so I highly anybody I know in my life, friends, family, whatever, who I find out that they're getting married, I almost always tell them now is that, hey, really look into pre-marriage counseling. And they always give me that look. Like one person said yes, they did already. I was like, well, that's awesome. But everybody else, they give me that look. I'm like, I'm telling you, it's worth the price of admission
Right.
because there are stupid things that you don't think of that will come up, and it's best that you already kind of have a thing in place, right? Like, did you and Dana do pre-marriage? I'm going to say
Right.
no, but I'm going to ask anyways. Did you guys do pre-marriage
No.
counseling?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. I
No.
didn't either.
No.
Yeah, I didn't either.
No. We did. I'm. I can't compare myself to other people or our situation to other people because
Sure.
it was just to me it was just very unique and it is very spiritual to me on how it happened because
Right.
I was in no place prepared or ready for what was placed in front of me. I didn't go into um, I didn't come to Florida with the intent of finding Dana
Right.
um, and falling in love within months of coming here. You know what I mean? I was on the run. I wasn't. I wasn't ready. I was not mature. I never had a girlfriend. I didn't have any kind of girlfriend of any length of time.
Right.
Matter of fact, I don't even think I had a relationship with the same person for more than 3 months ever. And when I mean by relationship, I mean there's all types of relationships, right? There's people that we just hang
Sure.
out with or whatever. So um, I didn't even have one of those. Never even told a person I love you that was not a family member. I had no desire to live, to be honest with you. I mean, I was just living to exist. I didn't plan on staying on this planet, and I definitely didn't plan on staying in Florida. Um, I was just coming through. I was just passing through, really.
Right.
Matter of fact, if you ask Dana, what my theme song was Freebird. Freebird was my theme song at the time, and I
Nice. Nice.
I let her know it right from jump. I said, I'll be here for a little bit, for a minute, and then I'll leave. But the problem is that when I met her, I mean, man, I mean, from day one, second one, when I saw her and I spoke with her and got around her, I mean, I never felt like that around a woman. I always felt very confident and competent,
That was
and I
opposite. I was
felt,
pro marriage forever.
dude, I was like, well, you can relate to that. You know what I mean? That you
Yeah.
you you weren't you weren't looking for it either.
Oh, we'll get to mine. Go ahead.
But when we ended up getting married, I'm gonna just fast forward. I mean, a lot of things happened in the way. First of all, my brother I think knew for sure this was the one because it was the only one I ever told him about. It was the only one I ever introduced my family to. Only
Right.
female I ever introduced my family to. I was 20, she was 19. But if you know my story, by 20 I was really retired. Um, I'd just done so much crap and stuff that I felt really old. I was a very old soul by then. And I was broken, very broken. And so, um, no, there was no marital counseling because we didn't care about any other's opinions. I knew that all the changes that I was making to become a better person, uh, were all worthy. Whatever I had to do to be in this relationship, be the man for her, I was going to make those changes.
Well, you were already doing step
Now
work too by that point, right?
I was already doing a lot of
So
stuff to
that to me
be
kind
better.
of
Yeah, I was
counts
already,
as
yeah,
counseling.
yeah, I was already doing stuff that was still no step work, but just stuff.
Right.
I was doing stuff that was necessary, but I would throw things off of her that were normal to me, and she would look at me like I was like, crazy, and
Yeah.
so I found
My
it.
wife still does that.
Yeah, I thought that was always odd because everything that I thought was kind of normal to say to her or to act like, things that I thought were normal, she'd look at me like that's not normal, and they'd be like, "What are you talking about?" That's just the way it is, right? And so I found it very awkward. And so at first I thought maybe it's cultural, maybe it's East Coast, West Coast. It's got to be one of those things, right? But it
Right.
wasn't. What it really was is just two very young people that were the youngest child in their families, so they always get what they want, right? Both of us are the youngest child. By the way, I think that matters. I think that's relevant. Um, because when you're both, your family of origin issues are always relevant to whatever your situation is.
Right.
The other thing that think is super relevant is faith, whatever faith you really come from, and things that you're unwilling to compromise. Well, Dana and I, we weren't dead set on any particular faith. We had a core set of beliefs, but it wasn't so rigid that it wouldn't allow for discussion or compromise.
Right.
So I think that was a really good thing. We were both very fortunate in that way that there was nothing so hardcore and rigid that it would force the other person to drop their belief system, their culture, their faith, uh, anything, or even move. I think the
Right.
hardest decision we were going to make, I thought, was going to be where we were going to live. To be honest with you, but since my parents settled down in Florida, Dana won, and I would have done it anyway because while my parents are alive, I'm not leaving their side anymore. I'm not
Right.
leaving for more than 2 hours away from my parents anymore. I did that, and I'd much rather be close to family than be
Sure.
far from family. And Dana's a beach girl, so I was like, no way am I staying by a beach the rest of my life. Now here I am living on a freaking beach. You know what I mean? But I would never thought I would live near a beach. So for anyone kind of getting in this situation, I know we started off by saying it's hard, and yes, it's hard, but
Yeah.
it's only hard because we fight it. We really
Yes.
do fight the situation. And I'm going to give you an example that I don't mean it in the wrong way, so don't take it the wrong way. But let's say you get a job in corporate America, or let's say you get a government job, or let's say you go to prison. In all those situations that are really long term, to reap the benefits or to exist in it, it's really long term. You just have to accept the situation.
Yeah.
If you go to prison for 30 years, let's say, not that I'm in prison for 30 years, so don't take it like that. But let's say
No,
you go to
just
prison for
29.
30 years. The old timers are right away going to tell you, you got to stop thinking about the outside. You just got to
Yeah.
accept that you're here. You just got to make your life within here. The outside world doesn't exist. You are here, and this is what you need to make of it. The sooner you accept your situation, that you're here, and this is the only life that exists for you, the better you are. And I took that exact same philosophy and I put it into my marriage,
Yeah.
not out of the negative, but if you're married, man. So stop thinking, oh, single people do this, or if I was single, I could do this, or if I didn't have that. No, that's not your situation. So to compare
Right.
it to that, your brain is always going to play some tricks on you if you do that. Plus, it's going to be based on whatever emotion you're feeling at the time. And so that's not good. You don't want to base decisions based on emotion or frustration. So just accept your situation, fight like where the hell are you going to go in the first place? No, I'm not saying you say that. It's not like I
Yeah.
go to Dana and I said, you say whatever I want, and they're like, what you gonna do? You gonna leave? Where you gonna go? No, but I am thinking it like, where's she gonna go? But I'm more
Right.
more so I'm asking myself, where am I gonna go? It's not like I'm leaving anywhere. So why don't you just shut up, Louis, and just stop pushing her because there's no reason to push her right now. I mean, just go to your room and be quiet. Put
I
yourself in
think that
timeout.
we said this earlier, but I think that that's one of the biggest. Yeah, I think there's many, but right off the bat, I think that's one of my biggest takeaways I've had from our conversations over the years. Right.
Hmm.
First and foremost, I'm proud of myself that I've surrounded myself with people who are where I want to be. Right. Like I have friends, I've got people around me who've got 10, 20 years of marriage around them. Like I'm not friends with a bunch of single dudes, getting advice from,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah,
Like, so
that's
first and foremost, like I think that's what I've done. But I think one of the bigger things, and I think there's many of them, and I'm sure as we continue to talk, I'll think of them. But right off the bat, one of the biggest things for me was uh, so disagreements or moments of difficulty. I think I viewed them as like a business negotiation, right? Like, I'm coming into it. I've got my ideas. I got what I want. I got what I think should happen. We're going to negotiate this out. To whereas now, I think due to you and some of the things you said, I approach it more like a treaty. You know what I mean? Like just look, you got your side, I got my side. We're going to just agree to like leave each other alone, right?
right,
And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean that as in like I no longer approach a situation as in how am I going to get her to see what I'm talking about?
right.
Like how do I get her to understand that she's wrong right now? Like I don't do that anymore. I
That's
just
not gonna
like
happen.
no, no, it's never going to happen. And likewise, vice versa. Like I don't want to sound like I'm some innocent. No, she's never going to. If I think I'm right, dude, that's it. Like you're not
That's it.
convincing me otherwise.
Right.
Um, but there's just like she'll say and do things that upset me or I don't agree with. And instead of feeling the need to like, nope, we gotta hash this out right now. I'm just like,
Right.
whatever, man. She's just having a moment, whatever, you know. Um, and that it sounds so simple and so stupid, but it works. Like I don't remember what day it was. It was a while ago. It was years ago now. Just you and I were having a
Mhm.
conversation, and you were like, "Man, you gotta like let that shit go." Like I'm paraphrasing.
Yeah.
I don't think those are your
Yeah.
exact words, but you were like, "You gotta let that shit go." Like, look, man, you're not going anywhere. She's not going anywhere. Like, stop. Just wake up and try again tomorrow.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, man, what? No, you're freaking stupid. No, I'm not gonna do that. But then the more I thought about it, first off, I couldn't ignore the fact that you guys are together for like 20 some years at that point. So I was
Right.
like, all right, like I as much as I want to ignore him, he's coming from a different place than I am, so I have to like respect that.
Right.
But then the more I thought about it, I was like, ah, you know what, maybe there's something to it, and I
Right.
tried it, and it worked. Right, like for me, it was like spirituality. When I first started thinking of spirituality, I was like, "This is stupid. It's never going to work." But I
Right.
tried it, and it started working. So I was like, "All right, well, let me keep doing it." And
Mhm.
so for me, that is one of the biggest things, right? Like, is I stopped fighting the normal flow of things, right? Like I just started to allow it to be what it is. Like,
Right.
okay, like I said, like a treaty, right? It's just all right,
Right.
ceasefire. She's having a difficult day, maybe. Maybe I said something to upset. Who knows? Just she's where she's at the moment.
Right.
Let me just love her.
Right.
Like that doesn't mean I gotta be happy with it.
Right.
Doesn't mean I gotta agree with it. It just means that like, all right, let me love you where you're at right now. Um, what is it? Oh, Richard said she's going to live in the beach house while you pay for it. Nice. But yeah, man, I think that
That's why I ain't going nowhere. I'm not
right,
going nowhere, Richard.
yeah,
It is,
well, she's got your credit attached to it.
you know.
But yeah, man, I think that's
Yeah,
one of the
it's
biggest things I heard from you was just like let it be what
yeah.
it is,
Well,
man.
good. Well, good, because you know it is. We fight it. We like to fight this kind of stuff. You
Yes.
know what I
Oh, I
mean?
fought it like super hard.
And I used to really want to be right. But you know what I like more than being right? I like being cherished and loved more than I like being right, to be honest with you. Um, and it feels good to be loved by her. It feels good for her to love me. It's better than other feelings that I've ever had. You know what I mean? It's longer lasting. It seems to be more meaningful to me. Um, Even more meaningful than my parents' love, because my parents, I feel like they're obligated to love me almost, right? Like it's like
Right.
impossible to break that love, right? Whereas Dana made a choice to love me, and she made a
Yeah.
choice to
Every
stick
day.
around and stay loving me, right? So I make the same choice to her, and the decision for her, and I'm willing to love her through her crazy. I always tell her I love your crazy. I don't always like her crazy, but I love it. You know what I mean? I must love it
Right.
because I stick around, right? So
Right.
so she's crazy and I'm crazy, and that's humans, and but this is the human that I choose to be with, and I choose to live the rest of my life with and die with. You know what I mean? This is the one I want to be with, and I'm cool with that. Um, Again, and it's not out of compromise. I'm compromising my life, or I'm compromising anything. I don't feel like I gave up on anything. I don't feel like she's given up on anything. I just feel that when you find something really good, uh, just hold on to it. If you find a value to it. Now, obviously, if we grew very apart, it would be a problem. And I'm not trying to knock
Sure.
anyone that chose divorce. I mean, if you've chosen divorce in your life, that's on you. I'm not
Yeah, it
faulting you for
happens.
that. I'm not saying I'm anything special because I haven't. I'm simply saying that we always going to grow a little bit apart. Dana and I, of course, we've grown apart in some things, and we've grown together in a lot of things. But some things you just grow differently, right? I was 20, she was 19, so
Yeah.
obviously some things didn't come out at 20 and 19 that are coming out now. The
Sure.
difference is that you're cool with it. It doesn't blow your mind. It doesn't drag you down. Now, here's the one thing that I think is really funny still in our relationship, though, because the older men always told me, this is the advice I always got. That happy wife, happy life. And I'm going to call it crap because I really think it's crap. Not that it's not true. It's 100% true, by the way. But it's crap that I'm gonna do that. I'm not focused on, I'm gonna do whatever she wants so that I'm happy. No, that's not what I'm saying. Because I also want to be happy. And so I think it's important for me to say what I got to say, but at the end of the day, my actions are going to do the things that she wants. I'm going
Right.
to do the things that make her happy, but I'm not always going to say the things that make her happy, if that makes sense. In other words, I'm not going to say, "Oh
Sure.
yeah, I agree with that," or "I like that," or or put it in the nice little way. But my actions are very, very important, and so I think that at the end of the day, if she complains enough, she's gonna get it, and she knows it, and tell her that, you know what I mean? I'm gonna give it to you. I don't want to, but I'm gonna kick and scream the whole way there, but I'm gonna still give it to you, you
Well,
know?
I think you're touching
Whereas
on
with
something.
her, it's words. Her, it's words, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
her words, don't go for her actions, because she'll say one thing, and then 5 seconds later, if I don't respond the right way, she'll be like, "Well, you didn't do it." I'm like, "Whoa, wait a
Uh,
minute.
right.
Wait a minute. You know, give me a moment here." So, go ahead.
No, I think you're touching on something that I want to make sure I point out, right? And So
Okay.
this is something that I've noticed, um, the people who don't do it, and I've noticed the people who do it. Um, One of the things I'm grateful for is you, myself, some of our acquaintances that we have in common, and even those we don't. We're like honest to ourselves, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's a big deal. What I mean by that is like, dude, I can admit, I'm not afraid to admit. Like, I think, let me preface this by saying certain things that I'm talking about right now and get ready to. When I say admit, my ego allows me to admit it now. One of if you would have told me 10, 15 years ago, I'm like, no, I'm never gonna, that's whatever. But now it's like, nah, dude, like, yeah, I'm whooped right now. Of course I am. Like, I can admit that.
Right.
And so to me, I think being able to acknowledge, I want the connectivity that I have, and I want
Right.
and I like this person. Those things are like, a lot of people consider those weaknesses, right? To give that kind of vulnerability to another person and admit it.
Mm.
Because I see people all the time on my Facebook. I'll see some people posting like, oh, the opposite sex, they aren't shit. I don't need them, just completely trashing them. And then they're the same person that like a month later will post about how they're lonely and they want somebody to love them and all this. It's like,
Yeah.
well, if you could just stick with that mindset and admit that, yeah, it's important to you to have somebody that loves you. It's important to feel committed to somebody
Yeah.
and connected, then that goes a long ways, right? But we don't want to admit that. We want to act like we're these rough, tough islands who don't need anybody, and you're
Yeah.
only in my life because stop, right? Like, that's one thing I like about where I'm at in my life and where a lot of my friends are,
Mm.
is we don't like like, yeah, I agree with you in the sense that the happy wife, happy life thing is kind of BS in the sense of, no, I'm gonna ask my wife, dude. Like, I say all sorts of stuff that she's like, what?
Right. Right.
Having said that, my wife gets away with a lot. Do I agree with all of it? No, but that's my wife. What am I gonna
Yeah.
do? Tell her like, no, it's just,
Right.
in this whole like, who wears the pants? Like, I think so many people are like, we're not willing to just admit the reality of the situation, right? We still have this idea, this ego, and we
Right.
want to try to live up to that ego sometimes, and we don't want to just be honest and admit to it. And I think that is a huge part, and that's like I said, it's one of the things I love about myself and my friends that we have in common, is we're not trying to pretend to be these machismo, like,
Excuse me.
bless you, because Gesundheit. um
Thanks.
but we don't, we're not we're not losers, or weak or anything like that, but we can acknowledge the situation for what it is, like, right, we can see the reality of the situation. We don't view that, like, I don't view it as a weakness that I want my wife to love me and I feel good when she loves me. Like, I don't think that that's a weakness. 10, 15 years ago, I probably would have said it was a weakness. um Richard just said, it's also hard when we have a culture that vilifies monogamy. Yeah, I can see that. Like, we definitely
Yeah.
want to push this idea, like, men, as many women as you can possibly get, that makes you more of a man and stuff like that.
Right.
Um,
I think we
but
do it with. I think we do it with females now too.
we're starting to, yeah.
Yeah.
But no, but like, so back to my that point, and I don't mind getting to that one as well, Richard. Um, I really think that's important. Like, I can't stress that enough. Like, see it for what it is. Like, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's
Mm.
okay to say, my wife's opinion like really matters to me, like, a
Mm.
lot more than anybody else on this planet. My wife has the ability to make me feel like I'm the only boy in the world, or
Right.
she has the ability to make me feel like I'm the worst human being on the planet. Like, she has that power to make me feel
Yeah.
those things, and that's okay. It's
Yeah.
okay that she can make my whole day. My wife, I could be having a completely horrible day, and my wife could come in and just show me some affection or some attention or say something nice, and it brightens up my entire day. Doesn't matter what's been happening before, or I could be having a great day. My wife could come home in a bad mood, and next thing I know, I'm not in a good spot right now. And it's okay to
Right.
admit those things, right? Like, I'm not saying that that doesn't evolve. What I'm talking about is the acknowledgement of it, acknowledging and realizing how important this other person is in your life. I
Mm.
think that we sometimes want to act as if like it's somehow not manly or it's weak to admit that, on both sides of the thing, right? And I think that doesn't do anything but cause problems. I think that causes issues because then we have to live up to that, right? If we say, oh,
Mm.
I don't care, well, then now all of a sudden I have to live up to the I don't care, and I have to start acting like that. and saying that, and all it's going to do is hurt them and everything else. Whereas if I can start off from a place of admitting, you know what, it matters to me, then how do I maintain that? Then I think that's a good spot. Um, stop me. Yeah, no, it's her job, dude. It's not me, that's for sure. Well,
Yeah,
sometimes it's probably me.
yeah.
But that happens after she gets home.
There's a couple of clues that I had, at least in my relationship, that I knew that I felt differently about Dana, and that I was willing to be a different man for her. Was I did meet her in a time where I was getting away from the party lifestyle, and I didn't. I actually I was trying to get away from women as well. I was trying to quit everything for a moment. It wasn't supposed to be permanent. It was just supposed to be a moment. So it's not like I was quitting women and trying a different team. I'm just saying that I was just quitting from anything that I thought was problematic. And to me,
Right.
uh, women were involved in a lifestyle that I was just trying to take a break from. Now, when I met Dana, what I thought was different was, and you had mentioned, off air before we started about lust versus love.
Yeah.
I wasn't lustful for Dana, and I thought that was unique because I had always 20 years old. I was still objectifying women, uh, pretty much. You know what I mean? I was still measuring
Right.
women by not by who they were on the inside, but basically of what I thought from the outside. You know what I mean? Everybody has their
Right.
favorite parts of the opposite sex or the person they're attracted to, right? And my parts didn't involve the brain. It wasn't like I was going, "Oh, that's a very
Same.
intelligent woman. I'm attracted to that." I was a 20-year-old kid. That wasn't in my mind. Obviously at 52 years old, I would probably be very different, but not at that age. At that age, it was simply about other parts.
Sure.
And I found myself not doing that with her. I not only did not do that with her, but I also, uh, didn't make any of the first moves with Dana. For instance, she had a boyfriend of 4
Right.
years, and I was like, I'm so used to going out with women that are connected. I was like, "I'm not screwing this up. I'm trying to not be that guy. So, you do what you do, and, if you guys break up, well, then let's talk," kinda deal, right? And then she broke up. Um, when we were first together, I didn't go in for the first kiss. I was kind of slow on it, man, because I was like, I don't want to do that because I'm so used to once I get something of what I want, then it's not interesting anymore. Then I'm not as,
Right.
I really don't want it anymore. Like when you had it, been there, done that, boom, right? So I was worried about that. I really was, um, because I didn't want to screw this up. I wanted to go as slow as possible. So she made all the first initial moves, and I thought it was beautiful that way. You know what I mean? And I like that even to this day, as beautiful as she is and as attracted to her as I am, and as sexy as she is to me, that is not one of the first things that I think about with Dana. It's not,
Right.
I don't start with that. Not in my head, not in my words, not in anything. It's so many other things about her that I'm attracted to. And I thought that was really unique. And I'm glad that's where she's at too, because I'm not the most attractive guy and all that kind of stuff either. So the fact that she saw something in me, that was unique and that she enjoyed, that's more longer lasting stuff, right? What she enjoyed about
Right.
me was more sustainable, and what I enjoyed about her was more sustainable. So I think that's important to talk about too. I think that if we get in relationships and it's based on lust over love, you know, that could be problematic. It's good to have sexual chemistry. I'm not saying it's not, but that sexual chemistry can't be dominant. That can't be number one.
Right.
It really just does. As important as it is, it should not be the driving factor in a relationship. And I think that's where I feel really, really blessed that wasn't the driving factor as well.
See, I struggled with that actually early on with my wife. Um,
Hmm.
because for me, I was used to being, the let me see, how do I phrase this? I was used to being that guy, right? Like I was a rather large human being, taller than most people, bigger than most
Hmm.
people. I had the bad boy look down to a T.
Right.
Doing
Right.
motorcycles, stunt shows, getting all fully tatted up and stuff. Like it wasn't a
Mhm.
difficult thing to find somebody with some daddy issues for the night. Um,
Right.
but like with my wife, like I was used to that, but then my wife didn't care. She couldn't care any less about like my
Right.
size or this or that. Like the things that normally were at
Yeah.
the forefront, excuse me, she couldn't care any less. And I didn't know what to do
Hmm.
with that. Like when she would talk, I mean, like I was like, what do you mean? But
Right.
now obviously I appreciate that. Like now that I've matured more and her and I've bonded more, of course. But in the very beginning, man, it was weird for me for her to not be just another groupie. You know what I mean?
Well,
If that's the right
that's what
way
I'm
to put it.
saying. No. That's what I'm saying. It's like whatever it's a good person that whatever you use to fish, she's not interested in the bait you're fishing with.
Yeah,
She's
yeah,
she jumped in the boat for other reasons. Because
yeah.
then it's like you don't have those things to go for. And the thing is that makes her unlike other girls. Dana's the first girl without daddy issues that I went out with. I mean, the fact that
Right.
she didn't have daddy issues was I thought was odd. The fact that I actually met her father, that was
Yeah.
you know what I mean? The fact that she introduced me to her dad, like, early on, I was like,
Right.
"Hey, wow, you're crazy. They don't
Yeah.
like me." You know what I mean? And
Right.
those are the beautiful things about it, actually, is the fact that that fly is in my you don't see that fly in my face,
No,
man?
I don't see it at all. It's
Jesus.
awesome.
It exists, trust me, it exists. Throws me off. It's just getting in my eyeballs and everything. But yeah, that's what I'm saying. So whatever they jumped in the boat for, so for whatever, why
Sure.
Angel jumped in the boat with you was different than what you were fishing with. And that's what makes it special because then
Yeah.
those other females are continue to be those other females, but that way she doesn't match them.
Yeah.
And what I mean by matching them, in other words, she doesn't have whatever baggage you have towards those females. She doesn't present those. She doesn't
Yep.
present that same baggage that those other females may present. And speaking of baggage, I think that's another positive, and that why I say that my situation is I don't compare it to others, is because neither Dana or I we didn't come in with baggage like that. You know what I mean? So it's not like this we had horrible relationships prior or anything like that. We both came in relatively clean of all that type of baggage, so it made it very easy to trust the other person and embrace the other person for who they are rather than judging them against maybe a past pain. Dana's the one that broke up with that dude after 4 years. Now,
Right.
what that dude probably measures everybody up towards Dana for the rest of his life. That's
Yeah.
his existence is probably way different than my existence.
Well,
Sorry,
see, like,
Steve, but you should have
oh wow, you
fought
even
for us,
called him
Steve.
out
You
by
shouldn't have
name.
pulled up,
Oh
looked at me,
wow.
and drove away. Oh, I'll call him out by name because I think he's a punk. I mean, that's disgraceful. If you're
It's
with a
awesome.
woman for 4 years, you're about to propose to her, and you let some dude come, riding in and just take her away from you without even questioning him, talking to him, challenging him, fighting him. I mean, that's a punk move right there, man. So yeah, um, thank you,
Well,
Steve, but I have no respect for that.
right. Well, so earlier you were talking about how your mindset kind of changed, and I made a joke, obviously, because, well, as you like to remind me consistently, we have
Yeah,
video evidence of me being very anti-marriage. So yeah,
yeah,
full disclosure, I didn't want kids. I didn't want marriage. Along with you, I definitely was more playing the
right,
field kind of guy. I guess I always said my
mm,
mom taught me to share, so I was trying to share. I literally had a
yeah,
T-shirt. This is like, I'm not Mr. Right, but we'll, whatever until he comes along.
mm,
Um,
yeah,
and yeah, so I had no desire for not even a serious relationship, like nothing. Like, I just friends. We're friends. We're
yeah,
friends, and we can do this until it's not fun anymore, and then we'll go our
yeah,
separate ways.
yeah, whatever.
And then yeah, and then she came in and completely changed that. Like, it hit me like a
Mhm,
ton of bricks.
yeah,
Wasn't really interested, wasn't ready. But like you said earlier, there's just something different.
right,
There was like a different vibe, and I think I was at a
right,
different place in my life. But even early on, I still
right,
fought it, right? Like, even early on, I still was like, am I really gonna be this dude? Like, really? But then I
mm,
couldn't deny the benefit there. And then, like I said, I'm blessed to have people in my life that are there. Like, they
right,
can say, "Hey, this is a good thing." I like it, because I don't
yeah,
think there's a lot. I don't think there's enough. Maybe I'm just wrong here, but and I think Richard alluded to this in his previous comment. I don't see enough people promoting the benefit and the greatness of a good, happy marriage. Like,
yeah.
I see
Well,
a
they
lot of
don't.
people I see
They
a lot of
don't.
people promoting how great it is to be single, or how great it is to play the single life, or play the field, and I see a lot of people complaining about marriage, the old ball and chain,
Right,
or I see a
right,
lot of people like just completely trashing it. But I don't see a lot of people promoting, like, yo, like,
right.
this is awesome. You know what I mean? Like, when you put your 29-year anniversary, like, that's a great post, but I don't see enough of that. And I know they're out there. They just don't promote it as much, or it doesn't get as much play time, right? And the reason why I know they're out there is every single time my wife and I have celebrated like an anniversary, like one of our things
Mhm,
for our anniversaries, we always do an experience. Like, I don't get
right,
her anything, she doesn't get me anything. We decide that we're going to go do something. And so, like a couple years ago, we went to Jackson Hole, Wyoming, which was amazing, by the way. But it was a few years ago. We did, Cirque du Soleil, right? Her and I both have
Mm,
always wanted to go do that. It's been here in Orlando forever, and we just never did it. And I think the Lanuba is what it was called, and it was going away. And so we were like, well, let's go ahead and go do it.
mm,
And when I went up, she went to go use the restroom or something, and I was buying the tickets. And the guy in the ticket booth who was giving my ticket, I told him, "Oh yeah, we're here for an anniversary." And he was like, "Oh yeah, he was married for like 35 years or something like that." And we just kind of got into a conversation. And I've noticed that every single time that I go somewhere and we're in our anniversary, and I say something, whoever I'm talking to, they've got like crazy amount of years in, and we bond over that in that moment. In other words, it's out there. Like there's a lot of people out there who've
yeah,
been married for a long time who love it, but they don't get as much
right,
attention. It
right.
doesn't get embellished enough, I don't think. Right? Have you noticed that?
Yeah, it doesn't get enough attention. I think because even like and I'm going to speak to the people that are married a long time but are unhappily married for a long time. I think that sometimes you get stuck in your ruts, man, and it happens to all of us. We all get stuck in routine and we all get stuck in ruts. But I think it's important to either be in the same rut with your partner or be in the same routine with your partner. I think it's very difficult for some relationships out there when they just completely enjoy different things out of life. Um, you have to be very strong with each other to be okay with that. And I'm going to give you an example. My father's not a traveler. My father's a homebody now. He's had enough excitement in his life. He likes to sit home and chill, watch his TV, listen to his music, and just do his deal, right? My mother, on the other hand, has always been on the go. My mother travels around the country. She does at least 3 or 4 international trips a year, along with domestic trips. She's constantly traveling, and she'll go alone or with her friend. Now she goes with her friends. But when we were younger, when I was a kid, she would go by herself. This woman would just like fly to Turkey on her own. You know what I mean? It's a trip. So, so, but they're good together like that. Like they're good with that. Like they're okay with that. And so it works for them. Whereas that, I don't know if that same dynamic would have worked in my relationship. In my relationship, it's a little
Right.
bit different. Whereas uh, we kind of we do like to chill and relax, but we like to go places to do that. If that makes any sense. So
Sure.
that person inside of me that used to like a lot of risky stuff. Luckily, my body and my desires have changed, so I'm not so risky anymore, and I'm not
Right.
so crazy anymore. So I don't need to go hang out with the fellas and go do nutty stuff. I don't need the guy trips.
Right.
I'm not drawn by that. I'm cool with just I'm a Marriott person, man. Let's go find a Marriott somewhere else. With similar circumstances that I have here, but it's just there. Let's go eat at that restaurant instead of this restaurant. You know, um, Kind of very simplistic stuff. But the fact is that because of we both like to chill the same way, it works. It works because we both like to chill the same way. So I think there are some things that I think in marriage counseling they are going to bring up, or if you go meet with your faith leader and have a conversation with your faith leader before you get married, there are some things that you can clear up. That being one of them, like
Right.
how do you visualize your future? But if you think your answers at today's age is going to answer that, let me tell you something. You would have told me I was going to stay at a beach. I would have went to a marriage counselor saying, "No, we're not. We're going to live in the mountains, and we're going to live. We're going to have acres and acres and acres. Probably have a ranch, or something like that." Because I thought, I had to be isolated away from everybody with horses and cows and stuff like that. Not that I was going to do the horses and cows. I'd hire people to do that, but I wanted them. You know what I mean? I wanted the
Right.
stream. I wanted the mountain. I wanted all that stuff. She wanted the beach.
Right.
If I would have known at that age that I was going to be cool with just dinners and hotels and chill, I would have said, "Nah, man, I got things to do out in the world. I'm going to do a lot of traveling. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go there. I would have answered very different because I wasn't in the same place
Yeah.
and mindset
Same.
back then. And this is the point to that. You don't know what you're going to truly enjoy and embrace later in life. You don't know what's going to make you feel fulfilled later in life. And let me tell you something. I take issue that if all the same things fulfill you today, 20 or 30 years later, that they did 20 or 30 years ago, you probably haven't grown and matured in some ways that maybe you
Yeah.
need to. So I would challenge that a little bit because
Yeah.
I like that my fulfillments have changed. Now, not the basics, the basic type of attachment, the basic love and security, those are still the same. The basics are real, but how you get that and how you achieve that, those things have matured and developed. And luckily, they've developed and matured equally to Dana's. And I think that's what really is the magic of a long term relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would agree with that as well. So prior to the show, I put a
Mhm.
question out on our social media. For those of you who want to see future questions and contribute to that, I posted it on our Facebook. So you go to facebook.com/WPSN99, or you can just look up Dope and Dharma. Problem with looking up Dope and Dharma is you're going to have to tell them that you you don't want help and you still need to look at our page. But so the question I asked was, what's the secret to a lasting marriage? Because I just figured there'd be some comments, right?
Right.
Um, and so somebody actually did comment, and it was a lengthy one, but I think it bears reading. So
Okay.
she said, "Don't do it, LOL." There are so many answers to this question. For me, relationships need to be built on trust, which begins with honesty and consistency. However, prior to a relationship or marriage, the most important to me would be that you're going into the relationship as a whole person. Too often, people look to relationships to repair hurt and damage from the past rather than doing the work. A higher power helps heal you mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. Obviously, will always be a work in progress, but in my experience, never look for a relationship with the attitude of "you complete me." Come to the relationship complete within yourself. Just my opinion. Um, I kind of I agree with that, but to a twist, right? And what I mean by that is
Right.
I agree that too often that's the whole title of the show is "Be the Right Person." I think too often
Right.
we're looking for the right person as opposed to being the right person. And so
Right.
yes, I agree that you need to work on yourself. You need to have a self awareness. You do need to go into because you can't really love yourself. You can't love another person until you love yourself, and they're not going to love
Mm.
you if you don't love you. And so you have to work on some of those insecurities and some of the baggage as you mentioned earlier. It's unfair, right? I saw somebody post a while back with this whole like, if you don't like me at my worst, you don't deserve me at my best. Stop, right? Like I don't want my wife to like me at my worst. I want her
Mhm.
to love me and I want her to still be here, but she doesn't deserve
Yeah.
me at my worst. Like that's a horrible idea.
Right.
Like I shouldn't be able to
Right.
just be me at my worst and expect my no. If I'm at my worst, I want her to still love me and be there. But I surely need to come to her afterwards and be like, "I'm sorry, you didn't deserve that. Like I shouldn't have come
Right.
at you that way. Like my bad."
Right.
Um, so I do agree in that text about how we definitely shouldn't look to a relationship to fill a void. We should already feel somewhat content and then bring somebody into our lives and share with
Right.
one another. Where I would push back just a little bit, and I'm not even sure if it's a pushback. I'm just once again, I don't want to read too much into the comment, but I'll say for myself, um, if I look at my level of completeness, if you will, if that's even a word, right now versus prior to my marriage, I'm light years from where I was. And it was because of my marriage I'm where I'm at now. My wife was the
Mhm.
catalyst. There was things that I had in my head or my approach to certain things that I was fine with. I didn't think there was any problem at all. I thought I was 100% complete until I realized it was hurting my wife or it was upsetting her. It was crazy, creating conflict between the two of us. And because I didn't want to hurt her, and once again, it wasn't necessarily my intent. It's just how she was receiving certain things that I was saying or doing that she was the catalyst for me to say, "Hey, well, if it's hurting somebody I love, then maybe it's not so great
Yeah.
after all. Like maybe I need to reevaluate this." And I did. I looked inward and reevaluated, and I never would have done that had it not been for me hurting somebody that I loved and care about. Right. Because I had those same mannerisms my entire life, and I didn't care
Yeah.
two bits that somebody was upset. I don't give a shit. Like, be upset all you want, man. Like you need to fix that. No, I don't. Like, I'm totally
Right.
fine. It wasn't
Right.
until I was hurting somebody that I truly loved and cared about that I was like, whoa, like if that's not what I was intending, but if that's what she's reading from this, then maybe I do need to step back and look at this. And I did. And I am absolutely 100% a better man and a better father, a better person after being with my wife and working on certain things than I was
Mhm.
prior to. And it never would have happened had I not been with somebody that I loved and cared about enough to
Right.
look inward. So, I get what the person was saying, and I agree in the sense that you got to do a lot of work to be in a position where you can be what you need to be for you and somebody else. Having said that, there is an awful lot of work that does happen after you're married as well, right? Like around my neck. So the day my kids were born, I've had this little necklace here, and I had it made through Etsy, believe it or not. And I've had it since my kids were born, so I've had it now for almost 13 years, and I've never taken it off my neck except for like MRIs, I guess. And it's got my kids' names on it, and now it's got my wife's name on it. Well, it's been that way for a while now, but it's got the names on it. But there's another one that I inscribed that I had written, and it said, "You make me a better man." And I've had that on my neck for 13 years now, and I still stand by it. My kids and my wife absolutely make me a better man. Because prior to them, I did for me, I did the bare minimum. I'm surviving
Right.
and I'm being who I am. I was a bit of a bully. As he pointed out, I was
Right.
also a womanizer as well. Like I was all sorts of things that I was proud of, right? Like that, it was like a badge of honor for me. But then when I had children and
Right.
when I got married, it just I wasn't proud of those behaviors anymore, and it was because of them that I was willing to make those strides, if that makes sense, right? Because
Right.
because my neighbor down the street didn't like, you think I give a shit what my neighbor thought? Like, no, I didn't care. Like,
Right.
I know you're supposed to care. I didn't. I wasn't a spiritual person. I gave no cares whatsoever about what they thought, but I do care about what my wife and my children think. I
Right.
do. I don't like it at all when I say or do something, and in my head it makes 100% sense and it's fine and everything else. But if my wife is sitting over there and upset, and she interpreted it another way, yes, the logical part of me and everything else says, "Hey, man, that's where she's at. That's how she interpreted it."
Right.
But there's a huge part of me that's like, "Whoa, dude! Like that is not how I want my wife or my kids to see me." So I'm gonna adjust how I approach them, and that is 100% because of my wife and my kids for sure. And I'm sure you can relate to that.
Yeah, I'm gonna go right back to exactly what you said, the complete part. I don't think Dana completes me. I just enjoy the kind of man that I am with her rather than without her.
Yeah.
But it's like that with multiple things. Like, so you have to put it in perspective of other things that you've adapted to, right? So occupation does that, right? So whatever you chose to do as your occupation, if you don't adapt to the occupation and just bring all of yourself to that job, that's when you have that like that employee that's at McDonald's that has his pants kind of all baggy down to his butt rather than in the uniform, right? You ever see that? You ever
Of
see that
course.
that guy that's still kind of a thug at a job, and you're like,
Of course.
bro, I mean, I don't care if you're a thug at home or if you're a thug on the street, but when I come to Chick-fil-A, I don't want to see that. Well, you don't get it at Chick-fil-A, but you know what I'm saying?
Right.
You don't want to see that thuggish. I don't care. I don't want to see that when I go to a business, and I definitely don't
No.
want to hire someone in my business that has to project their belief system over my business, right? So it's the same thing in a marriage or relationships. It's like you naturally adapt to the situation, and and I think for all of you out there that don't choose to adapt, that you're like, this is just me, and I got to be me, yeah, but you evolve, you adapt. That you're made out of water. You're not made out of concrete. You're not made out of stone. You're
Yep.
choosing to be concrete. You're choosing to be stone. You're choosing to not adapt. And if you think you want somebody that accepts you for 100% of who you are with all of your baggage, then go stay with your mom, because that's the only person in the planet that you could chop someone up into little pieces and you could be as mean or as honorary as you are, and they'll still visit you and bring you food and still visit you in prison and still put money in your commissary. But other than that, even your dad says, no, I don't want you 100% the way you are. You have to adapt in this world, in this life. And so if you were raised properly, and I hope that you were, then adapt. So I need people around me to hold me accountable, and your partner's no different. Dana's no different. So I may
Yeah.
I may not always agree with her views and opinions, but they're hers, and I need to respect it. And like Trinity said, they're important. I'm going to argue the hell out of it. But later on, I should at least reflect and go like, well, I do care about her and I care about her opinion. So what is she
Yeah.
saying? So the point is that to be the right person, it's not to be the right person for your partner, it's be the right person for you because you want a certain view of your partner. I want her to think of me a certain way. So Dana loves a sense of security. She loves that I've always made her feel safe and secure. She feels comfortable and safe everywhere we've ever traveled. We've been in some situations, even deep in Mexico, where we are being followed by a group of people, and one of the stands even says, "Hey, those people are following." They told me in Spanish, "Those people are following you. Be careful. They're going to look to rip you off." Dana still felt safe and secure with me. That's my point. So I know that what
Yeah.
she feels better from me being around me is that I make her feel safe everywhere and in everything we do. She could be in the car with me and she knows that we're going to get there, arrive safely. We could be in a situation. She knows that she's safe, she's secure. She knows things are going to be done. And so I take pride in that. So as long as I take care of that, that doesn't change who I am on the inside. Actually, that feeds exactly what I love. I love to be felt as a person that'll keep her secure. And I love the whole the Clint Eastwood of it. I am
Right.
I am that good guy with a little bit of negative or swag to do what has to be done. That's the kind of good guy I am. I'm not the Lone Ranger kind of good guy wearing the white hat and always no, but I am more like a Clint Eastwood good guy that says, sometimes you need to shoot the person to make it happen. And I don't mean it like in a bang bang real shootout, but you know what I mean.
Sure.
So the point is that you have to be true to yourself, but more importantly, be true to the yourself that you're constantly evolving and growing and getting what you need out of other people. And how you get what you want out of other people is not constantly meeting new people. See, because that's a different kind of feeling, right? Like we all like newness, we all like new things,
Right.
but like with anything new, it's not going to be new tomorrow. It's not new a
Yeah.
week later, a month later. It's not sustainable. And so it's important to always understand that no matter what is out there that may look bright and shiny, it all dulls out. It can all get dull if I choose to allow it to be dull, or I can take care of it, right? Some of us are really good at keeping old cars shiny, clean, washed, maintained, and others that, a week later, it's the same old dusty mess that you just traded in. So how long did your new car really last? My parents are really good at that. I can go to their house and it's still like a museum. I can get in their cars and it's still like a brand new car, man. It's like 10 years old and it looks like a brand new vehicle. They know how to
Right.
cherish and keep things. I know that I struggle with that, so I constantly have to work a little bit harder at it. Know who you are, know that you constantly need to keep things clean, maintained, well oiled, and all that stuff, and just know that that's part of your entire personality. Don't blame the car for no longer being new 10 years later.
Yeah.
You maintain it, keep it new, keep it looking nice. Some of us are married to people that we're disgusted by now, it seems like, and you're disgusted by it. And it's like, well, what did you do to help make it disgusting? Let me tell you what some of you men do to make it disgusting. If you treat your woman ugly, she becomes ugly. If you treat her like unkept, she becomes unkept. If you treat her like boring, she becomes boring. She will become everything you want her to be, just like you ladies. If you treat your man like a chump, he becomes a chump. If you treat him like he's rude and insignificant, he becomes rude and insignificant. If you treat him like he ignores you, then he will ignore you. We project and we create and we have a lot to do with how our partners turn out. But if you
Yeah.
treat your person beautiful, strong, worthy, valuable, intelligent, loving, connected, don't wait for them to connect, you connect. Then allow them to reciprocate. And we all reciprocate in our own way. They may not always reciprocate the exact way that you want them to reciprocate, but that's a you thing. We thing is that sometimes people reciprocate differently, respect each other's differences in that. And I think that's what makes it work as well.
Yeah, yeah, that's the I'm glad you said that because oftentimes in conflict we forget that we yeah, Richard
The
Coleman
Clint
typed
Eastwood.
yeah, stop projecting your toxic masculinity. No, another thing is
Hey,
and
hey,
you kind of
hey, by the way, before you continue on that, Dana likes that masculinity.
yeah,
So
mine
I'm
does too.
I'm with a person, I'm
Yeah.
with a person that actually like a man's man. So I
Yes.
got lucky in that way,
I tell my
man.
wife all the time I'm
Good.
so glad that I'm with her cuz she likes the masculinity part, but no,
Amen.
you kind of touched on it a little bit. Um with like you got to let your spouse, male or female, you got to let your spouse kind of like go through their process, right? Like you can't stop expecting you out of them,
Right.
right? Like you didn't marry you,
Right.
you married them, and you married them for a reason. And so I was guilty of that at times, expecting my wife to be me. Like, when something happened, I would expect her to process it. Or what. My wife is a processor.
Right.
If you expect my wife to talk about something right now, as you and I have said many a times about both, you are not mentally prepared for what's potentially going to come out of her mouth. Like if you make her do it right now on the way you think it should be done, you're not ready for what she's about to say to you. My wife, on the other hand, if you give her
Mm-hmm.
time, if you let her process it and do her thing, and she'll come back to you, it'll be so well put and so well collected and so thoughtful that you're like, oh, okay. But if you make her do it right away, you're not going to be okay with what's about to be said. Um, and so I think that's part of it as well, is letting them do their process. Like stop expecting you out of them. And in theory, to use a phrase that our previous commenter said, they kind of complete you. They kind of do, right? Like the things that you're good at, maybe they're not. The things that they're good at, maybe you're not. And so together, you kind of come together and make a whole, and it helps when you feed off of each other. And so if they are exactly like you, it wouldn't necessarily mesh as well. Maybe they do. So like I'm more of a immediate, like let me give my thoughts or whatever. She's more of a processor. So like together, it makes a more complete, situation, if you will. But
And
I
Trinity,
think you,
how about better stated? How about better stated? Instead of completing you, they complete the we, and it's the we that we're
yeah,
trying to move forward with,
yeah,
not the me.
hundred
We're
percent,
trying to
hundred
do a
percent.
we.
Yeah,
So they shouldn't have to complete you; they have to complete we.
yeah, I agree. And I think you planted a seed a long time ago, and I think I fulfilled it, through other avenues. But you planted the seed, and that is, you planted the seed a long time ago with the thought. Like I think you told me a long time ago, what helped work for you, which, if I'm honest, it did not. I tried so hard, and it just didn't work for me. Um, you would say to help with your approach, you would say to yourself, "I love this person," right before you would talk.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tried so hard. I did, man. It just didn't work for me. Like that skill just it didn't connect. But what did connect for me, like once again, you planted to see by letting me know that there was something wrong with. I don't say wrong, but I was unskillfully coming at it from my approach. So I
Mhm.
tried the skill that you gave to work for you. It didn't quite work for me, but it made me open to what eventually did help. Right, and what helped for me was there was times where my wife would say certain things or do certain things that once again weren't what I would do, and it would cause conflict. But what's helped me over the years is my wife has been through some things in her life, some challenging things, and so my wife comes from a survivalistic mindset. I'm going to survive. And that's one of the things I love about her. That's one of the things I'm the most proud of is just my wife will survive, dude. She's not the kind of person. She's this loving, wonderful thing that everybody sees and everybody freaking loves her like they do with the Dana. But like I'm telling you right now, that woman is like a feral cat. She will survive no matter where you put her. She will survive. Um, but that survivalistic mindset can come off pretty harsh sometimes. It can come off like brutal. And so what helped me over the years is I've come to a point now that when my wife responds or reacts to something instantaneous, I in my head I think, okay, she's coming from a survivalistic mindset. She's trying to survive right now. It's not a personal thing. She's not mad at me. She's not. No, she's just in her head. She's trying to survive, and she's going to say or do what she thinks is going to help her survive. And if I don't react to that, if I instead just allow her to be who she is, she always comes around. But if I react to that instantaneous and expect her to do the way I thought it was, it doesn't end well. And so instead of thinking to myself, hey, I love you, and then speaking, what worked for me was I think to myself, you're coming from survival. So let me approach it that way. Right. And so
Right.
I guess what I'm getting at is in a relationship, you kind of have to let your partner be who they are, man. Like, stop trying to change them to what you think they should be. Instead, adapt to
Mhm.
who they are. Love them for who they are. That doesn't mean that you
Yeah.
don't have boundaries. That doesn't mean that you don't speak up when you have your feelings hurt or things of that nature.
Right.
That's not what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about is fundamentally let them be who they are, and recognize that that's why they're in their life, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But
And
yeah,
and
you
that's
you
why I
planted
like.
a seed on it, but I tried so hard, bro. It just didn't work for me.
Well, I mean, look, I needed to do that because I used to come from a perspective that everyone is attacking me. I used to feel like a
Yeah,
victim in every
same.
situation, right? That was one of my problems. So, um, I didn't want to go into the relationship the same way that everything she said. I looked at like you're trying to hurt me. You're trying to, because then I'm
Yeah,
just going to get defensive. I'm never going to learn. I'm never going to get something out of it. I'm
yeah.
never going to adapt. Um, but more importantly, as a counselor, like I started counseling people when I still hated people. I don't know how that happened, but it did. I still did not. I still didn't care about the human race. I still didn't care about other humans. I definitely don't care about this fly that's flying around my face. And I swear, man, I need some. Where's my bug assault? I'm gonna shoot this thing. But I had to do. I started it with. I practiced it on other people before I even put it in my relationship. I practiced it, with clients. I started thinking, all right, I care about this person. If this person was my child, if this person was my loved one, if this person was my family member, what kind of feedback or support would I be given right now? And I found myself being a lot more soft, and a lot more caring. And I found that I was a better counselor for them when I did that, and then I embraced it differently. Uh, I practice it in all my things. And it's just natural now. I used to have to think it. Now
Right.
it's part of it. It just allows you to come out soft without worrying about being too soft. It
Yep.
also goes with like another thing that I think I told you a long time ago, and I tell a lot of people this, is that look, if you're a good person, don't worry about sometimes being nasty, because if you're a good person, that's what's going to come through anyway. Even when you think you're being nasty, you're still good, so you're fine. If you're a strong, confident person, don't worry about being vulnerable, because you're still strong and confident. That's still going to be there. Uh, you know, you could go to edges of the polar opposite when you're comfortable with who you are, because it doesn't change that.
Sure.
I think I even told you one time, be as soft as you want to be, because you're still a strong person. So it doesn't
Right.
matter how soft you come across. You don't have to worry about losing that strength. You know what I mean? You're still
Right.
always going to be strong. Um, and that came from the understanding. Look, man, if you're a punk out there, if you're a dork out there, you're still a punk and a dork, even when you think you're being tough and cool.
Yeah.
We still see the punk and dork in you. So don't
Yes.
puff up on me and act like you're cool or tough or whatever, because you're just not. And that's okay. Embrace the dork and punk in you, man. I mean, that's not a bad thing. We're all punkish at times. We're all dorks at times. You
Right.
know, you can embrace that part of you as well. Because if you don't, then you're just going to walk around like a jerk off all the time. And I don't want to experience your jerk offy, just like I don't want you to experience my jerk offiness. You know what I mean? I'll keep that to myself. So that all these things in relationships are no different than our relationship with ourselves. And it goes all the way back to the title of the show, and it goes all the way back to that one comment you read off that says, that we got to be complete and well ourselves. Well, you know what? If the world was a perfect place, we'd all be, without baggage when we walked into situations, and
Yeah.
we'd all have this great, self-esteem when we walked into relationships. But that's not the way the world works. Sometimes you meet somebody real important to you at the wrong time, and if you want to keep them, then sometimes you have to fast forward some learning, you know, or
Yeah.
you need to choose to accept the battle to where it's at the time. It's not always a perfect battle. What I would finalize and finish off with is this: that do not compare your relationships to other people. Do not compare your situations to other people. If anything, just compare it to yourself and what you want out of a relationship. And I don't mean all the details. Like some of you have like long lists. Like, this person needs to be this. I will not compromise. And it's like, yeah, um, but are you that person to them? Are you that same? Because the people that pick out liars typically lie. Like so
Right.
I know you're out there go, "Oh, I don't want a liar or a cheater." Yeah, well then don't be the liar and cheater. You don't
Yeah.
behave like a liar and cheater. You know what I mean? That's all you can do. You can't turn me into one. You can't make, but maybe your picker picks them. So if your picker picks them, that's not that's not you can't go to all of us and just blame us all for your bad picker. If you have a bad picker, you look within yourself and go, what am I fishing with? What? Maybe I'm fishing with bait that
Yep.
liars and cheaters really like. Maybe I'm fishing with that kind of situation. And I know that you're saying, "Oh, what's wrong with me?" And your friends go, "There's nothing wrong with you, girl." No, sometimes there are some things wrong with you. Sometimes there are things wrong with you that nobody's really telling you. But what it is your self esteem is low. You need to pull up your self esteem. You need to develop your confidence. Because remember, when you're vulnerable to that type of vulnerability, when you're not confident and you need a man to make you feel complete, the predators out there sense that. The
Yep.
controlling people out there, they sense that. They feel that. You're like a wounded animal. You can't get mad at a predator for hunting down a wounded animal, the slowest animal in the pack. They're never going to go for the alpha in the pack. Why should they? That's not what they're
Mhm.
looking for. They're looking for the easier, softest kill. So, yes, don't tell your friends there's nothing wrong with you. No, there is. You need to develop your self esteem. You need to get your confidence up, because if not, you're going to continue to find people that will abuse you and hurt you and take advantage of you and try to control you, because you're fishing for that. You're trying to
Yep.
be everything to them, and you don't need to be anything to them. The right person will embrace you for who you are. But the problem is when that person's around you, you're not attracted to that person. You think, oh, they're not good looking enough, or they're not successful enough, or they're not this enough.
They're boring.
You're discounting. Oh yeah, you're discounting all the men around you that are perfect for you, because the ones you're attracted to are the ones that are the abusive, harmful people. So it's not that those guys don't exist. They probably just don't exist in the box that you're looking them to be. So instead of judging all of them, judge yourself for the ones that you're ignoring. All the 80% of the guys that are great for you that you just walk right past, you ignore them, you don't even say hi to them, you don't even give them a time of day because for some reason you're not attracted to them. That's on you. And so we need to take responsibility for our pickers more often than we're not.
I agree 100%, and you know I've said that multiple times, right? Uh, um, yeah, I mean, first and foremost, your picker, man. My picker was broken back in the day. You know, I went for the wrong individuals. Doesn't mean that
Right.
they weren't good people. They were just wrong for me. You know,
Right.
it didn't fit long term. And I think that's part of it, right? I've heard many people who have, like you said, all these lists of what they're looking for,
Right.
but what they forget oftentimes, is that person that fits all those things in the list that you're wanting. They have their own list and they have
Yeah.
their own wants, you know,
Yeah.
and do you, do you rise to the occasion? Do you
Right.
check off all their boxes? They
Right.
might check yours, but you maybe don't check theirs. And that's where the whole idea of the show is. We got to work on being the right person. You know, we spend so
Mhm.
much, there's so much weight
Mm.
put on, all the right persons out there. You have somebody, they very well could be somebody out there that checks all your boxes, but are you in a position in your life where you check their boxes? Go ahead. I know you had something.
Yeah, and let me ask you, and I'll ask you this because I know that you've experienced this like I did. So I used to enjoy when I was single. I used to enjoy being with people that were connected. But Trinity, and I know you've experienced this. When you were with people that were connected with someone else, did they not always complain about the person they were connected with?
Of course, always.
Yeah, yeah. And so here's the kicker: while they're complaining about the person they're connected with, they're cheating
Yeah,
on that person.
yeah.
What makes you better then? What if you were the one cheating on your person and complaining about your person and being with somebody like the way we used to be, what makes you better? You know what I mean? It's
Exactly.
like, look at what you're doing.
Yeah,
And then you're sitting there complaining about that person. Oh, he's too boring. He's too this. He doesn't like this. But look what you're doing. You know,
yeah.
so I always, just understand that. Just please understand that we need to treat ourselves better. And when we treat ourselves better, we attract better people. You know what I mean? I attracted
Yeah.
Dana at a point in my life where I was trying to quit everything. Dana still jokes to our kids to this day, goes, he was even quitting cutting. I wasn't even cussing when I met Dana. I was working on not even cussing.
Yeah.
That's how good I was being in my life. And man, it's
I'll
like that was
never
a
be
whole
there.
different bait. That was a
Yeah,
whole different bait, man.
I'll
And
never
Dana
be there.
bit that bait. Yeah, I never knew that bait would have worked. If I would have used that for all the wrong reasons back in the day.
Yeah, exactly. Um, no, I mean you kind of touched on it, right? And in the same lines of other people want things as well, right? Like to me, I think that is one of the biggest. And I don't have the 29 years that you do, but I'd like to think I've learned some things in my journey so far. And one of the things that I've
Mhm.
learned the most, right? Like I already knew, but it didn't really hit me until once I've been in the marriage, I guess. Um, the other person's perspective is there, and it matters just as much as yours. And it goes both ways, right? Like if you want them to look at your perspective, you got to see theirs.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're wrong or right. I'll give you a very brief example. Uh, um, so early on, so we're a blended family, meaning I had two children prior to the marriage, and my wife also had two children prior to the marriage. So when we came together, we had four, but there was two and two, and then obviously, that comes with its own challenges when you're essentially taking on somebody else's kids as well. And so I remember there was a moment, it was years ago now, that my wife, we were having a conversation about one of her kids that she had prior to the marriage. And I took them on as my own, like those my own kids. And we were having a conversation about something. And she didn't like the way something went down. And I remember her telling me, I'm not gonna get it verbatim here, but she essentially told me not to talk to them or not to say something to them. And so,
Mm.
not in front of them, we just did our thing. But later on, I pulled her to the side. I said, "Look, let's make that the first and only time you ever tell me I can't talk to my children." And what I was getting from that was they're mine too, right? Like I have a thought process as well. You were only thinking
Right.
from your side and your perspective, but I have
Right.
one as well. And that was the only time that really ever happened because I had a boundary and I mentioned it. But what that to me illustrates is we so oftentimes have our perspective on what we're looking at. and what we're interpreting, what we're reading from. And in our minds, that's it. That's the truth, right? Because that's what we're seeing. But we forget
Right.
sometimes that that spouse that we love and we care about, that we've invited into our lives, they have their own perspective. And it's not wrong and it's not right. It's just different. And so part of the art, if you will, part of the dance is learning how to appreciate that in each other and have that bring you together as opposed to push you further apart. I don't want my wife to always look at things exactly the same way I do. First of all, that would be boring. Second of all, I would never grow from it. I would never learn. Like, what's the point of having her in
Right.
my life if she's going to duplicate everything that I'm already doing? Like, some of the best things I have is when my wife comes with something completely different than what I would have thought of. And it's almost always better, if I'm honest. And without that, life would suck, right? But I have to appreciate that in her, and sometimes it's going to work, but there's also going to be times where it's just completely off, and it's the opposite, and it doesn't work, But and
Mm.
that's okay. I have to be open to both, and I think so. For me, part of what makes a marriage work is appreciating those differences and learning how to work with them, as opposed to just constantly fighting and no, you think that it doesn't have to be either or. Two things can be
Right.
true, and you just got to find a third option here and how to navigate that a little bit. So for me, I think there's many secrets, if you will, to a long lasting marriage, but to me, I think that's one of the ones that needs to be put out there.
Right.
Is their perspective matters just as much as you do. As you pointed out, if the women in my life that I've been with were connected to somebody else, yes, they were sitting there complaining and whining about their spouse, which is why they were with me, right?
Right.
However, what they probably didn't realize is their spouse was probably out with somebody else complaining and whining as well. They might not have been cheating, but they had a friend, they had somebody that they were complaining to. So it's like, you think that
Yeah.
you're this perfect entity and your spouse is all okay, well, they think the same way. And it's hard for people to wrap their head around. And
Right.
there's people in my life right now that will have a spouse and complain about it. And I always try to play devil's advocate. It's like, well, they have a perspective as well. And I don't think that they're walking around thinking, God, I'm so horrible, dude. My spouse is amazing. I'm bad. No, they're probably thinking, hey, you know what? My spouse is doing this and doing, and that's where the communication comes in the key, right? You got to communicate. You got to talk about these things. You have to bring your
Yeah.
truth to the
Yeah.
table. You have to be willing to hear their truth if you want them to be willing to hear yours. And that's where the art form comes into play. And I think that that's where yes, you do have to be somewhat healthy, before you get into a relationship. But as he said, that doesn't always happen. I wasn't as healthy as I am now when I met my wife. I just wasn't. Was I
No.
healthier than I
God,
was
no.
when I met her 10 years prior? Yeah. But she fast forwarded things for sure. Like, my wife and my children definitely pushed the fast forward button for me. I was not
Mhm.
healthy when I was finding out I was having kids. No way was I even remote. Before I found out I was having kids, I couldn't even say the words "I love you." Period. It made me extremely uncomfortable. I didn't feel good doing it. I didn't like it, but I knew I had to because I was having my daughter coming. So I got comfortable with that. Would I have done that had I not had a baby coming? Hell no. Like, I was totally cool with not saying those words to anybody in my life. So, but I think that is a major key, is communicating with one another and seeing and respecting those differences as a good thing, not necessarily a bad thing. So, I mean, I don't have the 29 years you do, but that's what I've learned so far, right? But you
I
got
don't
anything
think it
else
needs to
you
be
want
compared to my 29 years. You
to?
No,
No,
you
I'm
got your
happy with mine.
experiences, I got
I'll get
my
there.
experiences.
No,
Yeah.
no, I'll get there.
Yeah,
I have no
exactly.
doubt. It just it's a
You hope.
exactly, exactly.
I
So the
was
one
I
thing
was
I
joking with Dana at 28 years and 364 days. You better hope you make it to 29.
right.
You got one more day. You don't celebrate early.
So the one thing I will say before I wrap it up completely, I will say thank you everybody for tuning in, and for those of you who commented, we appreciate you as well. You can
Yeah.
always tune in and comment if you follow us on
Yep.
Facebook,
Yep.
YouTube, and Twitch. You can look up Dope and Dharma on social media. He is at the Dope Doctor. I am at the Dharma Guy. By all means, reach out to us if you got any other comments or show topics you'd like to hear. Monday evenings, we typically do the Couch Live. We do that here locally on 1680 AM as well as 100.7 FM. And as always, online as well for podcasting. Tuesdays is Dharma Time, where we talk about these types of issues. And then, of course, Friday, we usually talk about the topics of the day, usually politics or sports or something like that. So um, Thank you guys for tuning in. I will leave you with this, right? The last thing I want to say, the last little bit that I want to put out there would be, if you are in a long-term committed relationship or marriage, right? I'm going to use the word marriage, but you could take that to mean what you want it to mean. If you've got some real timing with somebody, promote the hell out of that shit. Let people know how good it is. Don't be afraid to say, hey, we're 10, 12 years strong. We're 29 years strong and we're going good. I think we need to hear more of that. I think we need to present that more to the people, because there's no shortage of people complaining about it. There's no shortage of people saying it sucks and it doesn't work. I think we need more people saying, hey, yeah, it's hard at times, but it's totally worth it. And I'm still here and I'm proud of it. And if you're going to do that, by all means, tag us in it, right? If you're going to put how long you've been together, tag us in it. I would like to see that. I would like to go to my feed and see people, hey, we've been together this many years and going strong. That to me would be an awesome thing to see every day. So by all means, if you follow us, tag us, and if you don't, that's fine. But promote it. Like it brought a smile to my face, man. And I've known this dude for years, but it still brought a smile to my face, man. Like when I looked down, I saw 29 years. It just like, it was a good moment in my day. Through you, I was able to experience that. And I think more people should feel that way. You know, more it brings a smile to somebody's face right then and there. And then it gives hope to other people who are maybe struggling right now or who are in the beginning of their journey. Like I think we should have more of that. So if you're out there and you're working on a relationship and you're building it, by all means have the gusto, if you will, to put it out there and promote it a little bit. I think we can use some more of that positivity out there in the world, and think that's all we got, man. So unless you got something else, I think that's all we got. And
Oh,
appreciate
that's
y'all.
it.
All right. Now that we know better, do better. Peace.